Welcome back to the Six Rings Kane Show. What's going on, fellas? This is Jazz joining you live here with Vish, DJ, and our special guest. He came on earlier. I love it. I love it. John Michaels at John Michaels U. What's going on, John? How you doing, brother?
Dude, it's great. It's June. We got a couple of months till football season. We got baseball College World Series. Isaiah Wong sticking around to stay in school. It's been a really good 6 months for the University of Miami.
Yeah, and Alonzo Highsmith is back in town finally. So we'll definitely talk a little bit about that. And by the way, even if we didn't have a lot to talk about today, because it's not crazy news, right? Like, so we're kind of like in the weeds now, trying to figure out what we're going to talk about. We get a little something here and there. It doesn't matter because we got John Michaels on, so you know that it's going to be exciting either way, right? So, and of course, we'll be joined in a little bit, in about 10 minutes or so, by Larry Blustein as well. He'll be joining us on the show. First and foremost, want to say thank you guys for coming on the show. We'll definitely give a shout out to our sponsor. I don't know, Vish, if you kind of want to hit them up first. We'll do a little prize picks. You got it up and ready? There we go, baby.
Always.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Prize Picks. It's the official daily fantasy app of 5 Reasons Sports Network. Make sure you're using the code 5, F-I-V-E, when you log in, when you sign up, right? So your initial deposit, they'll match it up to $100. You don't have to use it all at one time, but make sure you do use the code 5 when you log in, when you sign up, and they will match your deposit up to $100. And like I said, you don't have to spend it all at once. You can play multiple sports, multiple different players from different sports. You can play the NHL playoffs. You can play the NBA playoffs. You can do the NFL when it comes back around, college football, so on and so forth. You got so many different options, and you can pair different teams in different sports, which is great. So this is how it works, right? Basically, it's pretty easy. It all depends on how much you want to win, how much money you want to make. You pick between 2 and 5 players, and you play the over/under on individual categories. Again, all depends on how much you want to make, right? So if you big shout out there as John Michaels has the Prize Picks on his phone locked and loaded. So simple, man. Just go to prizepicks.com, sign up using the code 5, F-I-V-E, and make sure you check it out and have a good time and make some money there. Prizepicks.com.
I'll give you a shameless plug because I know Adam Wexler very well, who is the founder and owner of Prize Picks. They actually, their app was founded here in Atlanta. He does a lot of advertising on 680 The Fan here in Atlanta. We do, during football and basketball season, daily Prize Picks on our show. So it's always awesome. Adam's a great guy. I've known Adam for years when they first launched it. I've won about $1,500 on Prize Picks. So nice. Not a bad deal at all. So make sure you sign up. I know there's a lot of daily fantasy people out there. So we absolutely encourage, get on Prize Picks, play the game. I play it all the time. Last time I played, Jimmy Butler went bananas and won me some money. I had him and Mike Trout with an over. So won about $100 on there. So check them out.
That's the beauty of it, right? Like you can pick Mike Trout in MLB in Major League Baseball, and then you can choose Jimmy Butler from a completely different sport, play him kind of the same way, and make some money on both, right? So it's kind of cool. It's fun. I definitely play it. I have the app on there too, and I might have to do something with some baseball soon, as now I can kind of turn my attention a little more to baseball now that the Heat lost. All right, keep going, moving forward, because we don't want to give DJ any glory or any opportunity to say anything. We're just going to talk over.
Really on Blake James Appreciation Day.
Don't get me started. And you said baseball, Jazz, and our Red Sox are equally as up and down. So it's not looking good, except for the Celtics. Go Seas, bleed green.
Blech. Anyways,
let's go Warriors. The Warriors in 6. Get this thing over with. Let Jason Tatum go cry some more somewhere else.
Please, and yeah, stop wearing those damn Kobe Bryant wristbands. Get out of here with that crap.
Celtic with Kobe Bryant, and I love Kobe. Don't get me wrong, but that's
yeah.
I'm so over that team. Can't wait till they lose.
Anyways,
I mean the fake text or whatever to Kobe's. I mean, the man's dead. Like, what in the world? Just weird. Man, what is going on here, man?
So
DJ, you can't defend that.
No, not at all.
What is happening?
I mean, I do know people who still text relatives that have passed away, so
That's
can't
not a
see it from that
relative,
perspective.
man.
Look,
That's not a relative.
it was somebody
that's
close to him, though,
totally
you know what I
different.
mean? It was
There's
somebody close to him. It was somebody close to him. So that's what I got for that. But I
Did you
loved
notice it
watching
was the
Bam
first
Adebayo
message in the
disappear throughout
conversation?
the entire series. So what's that, Vish?
Did you notice it was the first message in the conversation?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe his phone disconnected. I don't know. It was a little odd, but I could see it. But I did watch. I did love watching Bam disappear throughout the entire series. So
yeah.
you know,
Well,
to each his own.
we won't get into that. Yes, Max, what's going on, Max? I appreciate it. I'm looking smart today. These are not seeing eye glasses at all. These are blue light lenses because I stare at a damn computer all day at work, anyways. As I'm sure that Vish could kind of attest to that also. And I'm not trying to catch no headaches.
Are those
or
any
anything
good,
like
Jazz?
that,
By the
man.
way?
Yeah, they're actually very
Yeah.
good. They've actually helped me out a lot.
Hey, wait for them to sponsor.
I've
What are
been
you
wearing.
giving it away for free for?
I'm not giving any brand names out. I'm not giving any brand names out. But they have I've been wearing it for a couple of months now, and they do make me look smarter, and that equates to looking sexier. So I'll take it. Anyways, moving forward, some interesting news coming out of Canes football. One benefiting us. Well, actually, both kind of benefiting us as Blake James gets named the new AD athletic director at Boston College. So now I don't have to see him at Yard House anymore in Merrick Park. That's number one, which is nice. And second of all, he's now he's bothering you guys up there in the Northeast, Danny, and he's going to fundraise the shit out of that school, and you guys are going to have a jolly good old time with that guy. So good luck with that one. I know you're not a big Boston College fan anyways, but that's okay. And then, of course, the bigger news and the more exciting news is Alonzo Highsmith has finally been announced, and he is coming back to be a part of the Miami program as the football ops guy, right? Football ops, right? General, whatever. It doesn't matter what the hell he does. He's here.
Yeah, honestly, I see all these hirings at the school, and there's a lot of people on social media. I've been hired as this. I have no earthly idea what they do. I don't care. Alonzo Highsmith just being around the program, much like Ed Reed. I never knew exactly what Ed Reed actually was doing. I'd see him down on the field, not really coaching because that's against NCAA violations. We don't need Nick Saban having our name in his mouth again, like he's Mia Khalifa. We don't need any of that to happen. But, okay, so Ed Reed was down there. Alonzo Highsmith's back. There's accountability with the program again. And that's something, as I'm assuming I'm the oldest of everybody on this show. I love the fact that there's accountability. There's no more Manny Country Club. There's no more Manny participation trophies. There's no more, hey, we're going to get a plaque and take a picture at a gas station after we get our ass kicked by North Carolina. There's no more of that. You think Mario's going to let any of that happen? Or Alonzo Highsmith, who literally, I know he's a Cane. I would not want to run into Alonzo Highsmith in a back alley if things are going sideways. Because I think at 50 some odd years old, he'd tear one of my arms off. But that guy being back with the program means something. He's going to walk in and tell football players, this crap that you've been doing for the last 20 years, you want to know why you're 7-5? This is why you're 7-5. Go put your weight boot or weight vest on. Go get your Timberlands and let's go run on the beach like Michael Irvin used to. Then we'll be back to being Miami. But I love it. I don't care what the hell he does. Just be there.
Preach, man. Preach.
Jason Taylor, too.
That was definitely Michael. Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. Like, and I think John kind of hit that. Like, all these guys that are here that we don't even know what half of them are doing. They're just here. Right. I mean, that kind of tells you everything you need to know because it's very, and I hate to mention it, right? But it's very similar to what a lot of the big programs that win national championships do. So, I mean,
I think this is a little different, actually, because I think we're actually kind of on the forefront of a lot of the changes that are happening in college football, and this is an extension of that. Alonzo Highsmith's a professional NFL guy, and as college it turns into more of NFL light,
a professional.
You're going to see other schools have to come in and bring in executives that are used to running professional operations, and we're kind of in front of the game there. So the added most with Alonzo Highsmith, as John says, he's a hurricane. He knows the standard. He's not going to settle for any kind of BS.
So Vish, what does he do? What does he? Yeah, what does he bring to this program?
Well, here's the thing, right? So from an executive standpoint, if you think about football coaches are football guys, they're not qualified to run an administrative department, but that's what the back office of football programs are. And generally, the athletic director has to handle a lot of that. And when you have someone like Blake James, that's a problem. But by bringing in someone specifically for football like this, as that landscape is changing, because even our athletic director, who's one of the best in the country now, he doesn't have professional sports experience in running a professional organization. That's how these football programs are going to run. You're going to be running a massive budget. You're going to be competing for talent, whether or not they're formally involved in the NIL deals. You're competing for talent on a pay level now.
Right.
You need an NFL executive that knows how to do that can advise, frankly, again, unofficially advise, like, hey, don't give that person that money. Because we actually saw it. Good news today, Isaiah Wong's coming back. We saw how, throwing around NIL cash, it's not just like there's no salary cap, obviously, but there's a pecking order.
Right.
Right. And you can't have an NIL guy coming in here and paying the bench warmer more than the starter and creating a headache the team has to deal with. Right. So you do need someone that kind of understands that. It's not like when you're running a pro sports team, it's not just who's making what, it's who's making what in comparison to the other people.
Trust me. Being around an NFL team for as long as I was, people will say that's not a thing. It absolutely is a thing. Why do you think all these guys 2 years into the deal go, wait, this guy's making more money than me on this team. I put up better numbers. And you could say Isaiah Wong had a point. And it's nothing against Nigel Pack. I think Nigel Pack will come in and be Charlie Moore, maybe even better. And Charlie Moore had a great year for us last year. Pack is a better, more explosive player than Charlie is. But Isaiah Wong's looking around going, wait a second. When Cam was struggling in certain games, I helped carry us to the Elite Eight. Why is this guy getting $800,000 over 2 years and I'm getting 90? So you could see where Alonzo could come in and help that. And Vish, it's a fantastic point with the NFL experience. And, this is where Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher and other guys are getting upset about NIL is the fact that you are going to have to run it a different way. There's a reason that Kirby Smart was at SEC Media Days yesterday and goes, I don't want to talk about this. Like these guys are not equipped for what hit them a year ago. I think for me personally, what I thought NIL was going to start as, and maybe morph into more, I thought it was going to start as, all right, the video game's coming back. You get $500 for your name, image, and likeness. Yep. Your jersey gets sold at all Canes or Canes Wear for $150. You're going to get $10 a jersey. Maybe you get a sports bar somewhere that wants to put you on for $20,000, or you get a car deal where you get a free car because those are just tax write-offs for the dealerships anyway. That's what I thought it was going to be. Never in my wildest imagination a year in did I think we'd be looking at kids. There was rumors that the commit to Tennessee got an $8 million deal. Quinn Ewers, who transferred in 4 months from Ohio State, got $2 million in an NIL deal, and it was autograph-based. Never did I think this would get there, and I don't think any of the coaches wanted to deal with this, and the NCAA sure as hell didn't want to deal with it. That's why they stood back and go, there's legislation. We're going to let that happen.
Yeah, and it's just been absolutely wild, and I think it's just going to continue to morph and continue to change, and these guys are going to find not necessarily loopholes because, it is what it is, right? You can do what you can do, and the lawyers are going to figure it out, and just like John Ruiz is going to figure everything out, and they're going to do what they have to do to
even on that front, I feel Miami's better positioned. If there is actually someone coming in.
Listen, if there's anybody who's doing it, it's John.
Yeah,
Ruiz,
he's a lawyer, right. But he's also got a legitimate business he's trying to grow. If they ever come in and try to enforce this, good luck explaining that NIL aspect of a collective. We're all in different businesses and you threw money into something. Like, how is that even a thing where John Ruiz can easily point to, I'm starting this business. No one had heard of Life Wallet 6 months ago. Now look, I'm on CNBC. We're on NASDAQ. I'm on TV all the time. Those NIL deals are what is getting me into the media.
Yep.
And so they are absolutely earning that money in NIL. Like you can easily point for that throughput there. Like we spent this money and this was our brand equity increase. These collectives, like if we all threw money into a pot and gave it to a player, like what are we getting out of that? Like, how do you prove that?
No, you know what that is? That's called booster money. It's called the bagmen that they've had in the past, where a guy walks around with a McDonald's bag full of cash and he hands it over to a player. The one thing that's going to be tough is, and this is the only thing I somewhat agreed with Nick Saban about, is recruiting and promising with NIL deals, because that was supposed to be prohibited. You weren't supposed to be able to buy a kid to come to your school. Now it's a slippery slope. How do you figure out was a guy promised or when he got on campus. And Texas A&M wisely has not handed out money until kids got to campus. Once they get to campus, it's kind of free game. But we can all see what this is. Now, I don't think any of us are dumb and are looking around going, no. These guys are not, offering cash early on. Let's be real. They're offering cash.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We
There's
all-
a lot of backdoor deals going on. I mean,
But John,
if not, you'd be dumb, right? Like, because as a player, you want to know what the hell is going on out there. Like, you don't want to enter the transfer portal or sign with a school, and that's what happens to a lot of these kids that enter the transfer portal, right? They're lost. They're still in the transfer portal because they don't do their due diligence. And unfortunately, that's the way they do it, through these backdoor channeling, these backdoor talks.
but it's been going on for 80 years. It's always happened. I had a friend of mine that played, and I'm not going to say what school he played for. He showed up the next day with a brand new Lexus that he had never had. This was in 1992, a brand new Lexus. I know friends of mine that were given hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to schools. I'll never put their name out there. It was 30 years in the past, but this was 30 years ago. So imagine what the going rate is now for a 5-star kid.
Yeah.
It's insane.
And on that note, let's bring in, speaking of 5 stars, let's bring in the GOAT, the star of this show. Yes, there he is.
There I am.
Mr. Larry Blustein. What's going on, Blue? How you doing, brother?
I had a removal of something yesterday, so don't mind it.
I think it's trendy, man. It looks.
I don't know. It looks like I don't know what it looks like. Yeah, no. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for coming
Blue.
on. I know you had your
There's
show
John
earlier
Michaels, my idol, right there. John Michaels.
First and foremost, Blue, I'm just happy to see you pulled through. Like all of us,
shoot.
Thoughts and prayers sometimes ring hollow with everything that's going on in our country right now. But for you, I was like, man, you are one of the icons in South Florida sports, and it's an honor to be sitting here to be able to talk some recruiting and everything else as you're still with us, and that's great.
Yeah. Well, thanks, John. It's great to be here, believe me. And I got a chance to see 41 schools this spring, thank goodness. And then I went up to FAU today, saw Nkosi Perry. I tell you what, Nkosi, if this was the Nkosi Perry we got 4 years ago, this is a whole different story. He's 6'3", 205, mature, got a kid now. Yeah, he's with a degree, with a degree. So yeah, I got a chance to go up to FAU, and they had a really unique thing that they held 5 scholarships out, and they had a tryout, and kids out of the portal, kids who were junior college kids, had an opportunity to get themselves a scholarship, which is a great idea.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. That is pretty cool. Good for them, and good for Nkosi. He got a raw deal. I get it, but at the same time, man, he did the right thing, and he's better off.
Got a degree. So thank goodness for him, and working on a master's. So things work out. Work out, and I got to tell you that just looking at him, he'll make a dent further than De'Ara King ever would think of in the NFL because of his size. That's De'Ara King's like a little kid, but I'll tell you what, I had a chance to go down to and talk to Mario 2 weeks ago, and I'll tell you what, things have really changed, and he's all business, he's all hyper, and he's glad to see that. Glad to see it. I told him straight out, I says, if you don't work out, they're going to close down the program. Because because this is no pressure on you or nothing, but because he's the pinnacle. He's the guy that everybody wanted. And so it was good to talk to him, good to see him. Haven't seen him in a while. And he's just, all he was talking about is the new facilities and this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, wasn't it 5 years ago we couldn't even afford to pay an assistant coach? And now we have $100 million facility? Damn.
It's amazing how that works. Blue, you've been around this so long. And, I'm pretty good friends with Rusty Mansell up here, who does recruiting news up for 24/7 Sports. And we'll talk about facilities. I think Georgia just upgraded $100 million some odd dollar facility. What does this do for Miami? Like I've always talked to guys and they say it gets us back in the game. But from what I've heard about this facility, it's going to put us at the top of the game. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I kind of reminded him, I said, when you were playing, you and USC were at the top of the food chain, and both of you had amongst the worst weight rooms in the country. And he goes, yeah, but Blue, things have changed. It's now, you're competing against, like you said, Georgia and Alabama, who are building buildings every week. And, to me, the very fact that the University of Miami, bought into this, and it's going to be amazing. They're moving the Cobb Field to where the intramurals are, and they're going to build a new facility, and they're going to give the old one. The damn thing's only a year and a half, but they're giving it to tennis and some of the other sports, soccer, volleyball and such. So, and then they're extending the indoor 40 yards more. So, yeah, it's going to run it 2 parallel fields right next to the baseball, right off over the baseball left field. And yeah, this raises the bar, John, in a huge way. And, I used to think, like my dad once told me, it's not the glove, it's the person using it. But, I don't know. it would be pretty neat to have what they're going to have. And they've, over the last couple of years, they finally got kids on campus. I think Randy Shannon was ashamed to bring kids on campus. He really was, because they couldn't keep up with the Joneses at the time, who were building, indoors and had amazing weight rooms. So now I think Miami's going to rent buses to bring people in, and was supposed to start this Saturday. They're supposed to have a 7-on-7, but I don't know with the weather, the way it is, whether they will or not. But they've got 4 7-on-7s and 3 team camps, and then 2 specialist camps planned in the next 3 weeks, and then the Legends deal. So I just I can't be happy enough for them. And I think by hiring a new athletic director, it raised the bar immensely in all sports. Right. And I think you're going to see Miami competitive like they were this year in women's and men's basketball and baseball. I mean, from now on, because there's no fooling around. And we were talking about, I heard you guys talking about NIL deals. And I mean, wasn't our friend who's in jail right now, wouldn't he be fashionable right now? I mean,
we would have been the school with the NIL deals where the check bounces, which would not have done that money wasn't real.
Yeah, but I mean, here's a guy giving checks to the president of the university in the bowling alleys, and right. He would have been a hero right now for a minute. But yeah, meanwhile, he's not picking up any soap. So
I don't think he's locked up anymore. I think he's on house arrest.
He got well, his lawyer somehow. John said he's not like free. I think they used COVID or something. They got some kind of excuse to get him out of jail and put him on house arrest.
Yeah, I think he's got 10 years on house arrest. He's not a fan of mine.
I'm not a fan of anybody's.
Well, no. I apparently I tweeted something. I don't even remember. It was when he made the comment about Lane Kiffin was interested in the Miami job, and whatever the Oxford paper ran with it. And I said, really, this is where you're getting your information from, a convicted Ponzi schemer. He called my radio station. This is how I found out he was out of jail. Wow. Our secretary, after the show goes off the air, goes, John, come in here. I need to talk to you. She goes, do you know somebody named Nevin Shapiro? And I started laughing, and I go, I don't know him, but I know the name. Why? And she goes, he just called here MFing you, saying don't ever talk about him again. And I go, what? I thought she was kidding. I said, somebody put you up to a prank. And she goes, no. And she goes, who is it? So I Googled his name and showed her, and she goes, oh my goodness. And I said, yeah, he was a Miami supporter in a very loose way. And apparently he didn't like what I had to say. Oh, I did not call him back. He left his number. I was like, no, I'm good. I have nothing to say to that too.
Yeah.
That is awesome though. That is awesome. That's a great story. Are you kidding me?
That is a great. Did you tell that on your radio show?
I did. And I worked with Joe Hamilton, who runner up for the Heisman, and Hudson.
Yeah.
We've got a 5-man show, and they looked at me and they go, you gotta be kidding me. Nevin Shapiro called her. I go, yeah. Go ask her secretary. He absolutely did.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Hey, Blue, we were talking about this right before you came on also. The hire, bringing Zoe back, right? Bringing Alonzo Heisman back. Yeah. How do you feel about that? How do you think that that's going to just kind of benefit the program even more than what they're already doing?
Well, look at where he came from as far as, what he did before, and he evaluated talent and for money, so you get an opportunity to bring him in now and to kind of manage the roster and look at some of the kids, because you can only recruit so many kids. And sometimes all these eyes may not be able to see what somebody who's done that all his life, trained to do it. And look who he is, and look at what he meant to this school and to the community. And yeah, I think it was, now look what you got. I mean, you got him, and you got Ed Reed, and you got, and I got a chance, guys, to see a lot of the assistant coaches and hang with them, because they all recruited during, where I was, targeting a lot of the kids in South Florida. And I saw them up in Palm Beach. And I'll tell you what, you look, and I know it's crazy, but here I'm sitting with Charlie Strong, and we're breaking down kids. And then here's Gaddis, who unquestionably is going to get a head job in the next year or so. I mean, he's a brilliant man. And obviously he didn't get along with Harbaugh, which is stand in line, I'm sure. But all the coaches that Miami has now, Kevin Smith, who came back, and was a Southridge guy. It just, what Mario did with the hiring of all these guys. And I, he asked me, he goes, well, who would you get rid of? And I said, well, I'm not going to answer that. I'll just tell you who I'd bring in. And one of the guys that I bring in immediately, and I'm sure that he's going to come next year, is Charlie Partridge from Pittsburgh. I mean, Here's a guy when no one even knew J.J. Watt, got him at Wisconsin. When nobody cared about Jabal Sheard, got him in to the University of Pittsburgh along with Greg Romeus, and has a kid that at Northwestern that Miami didn't even look at, Kalijah Cansey, who will be a first-round draft pick this year. So he really will clean up, and I think he needs to get Roland Smith out of that, bad news bears little guy that waves at you, and bring him onto the field. This is a brilliant man. I mean, I watched him for the last 10 years at Miami Central. He knows that position. And I think with the coach from Georgia, who's really, really good. I mean, how they got him, I'll never know, but I guess it's just one of those things. He's also on a fast track to a coordinator job, or perhaps, a really, really good job. So I think those additions right there would just keep Miami more of a local. And Miami's got to keep the kids home. They're still letting a lot of these kids get out of the area, but I think it's going to lessen, because even though that Florida State has Randy Shannon and, has other guys on the staff, Randy's limited on who he recruits. You see, Roland Smith is everybody's buddy, and so is Charlie Partridge. He could walk in any school anywhere. So I think from that standpoint, Miami will be ahead of Florida State, and Florida too. I think Napier's great. And I posed that question to Mario. I said, listen, you and Napier probably bit your tongues till they bled, but how much did you benefit by being around Nick? Let's face it, Nick is kind of an odd duck, but boy, I'll tell you what, he's like Bill Belichick. If you hang around those two for any length of time, you're going to really learn. And I think both of them, you'll see in Miami and Florida, both programs will reflect a lot of what Nick Saban imparted on them over the last couple of years. So I'm just ecstatic about Miami's future, because I think that now they're targeting the right kids. Mario won't go after a kid that is picking Miami and Southwest Louisiana. He just won't. He just won't. There's got to be Ohio State in the mix and Oklahoma in the mix, and all the kids that they're looking at now. And while I was there, I also had a chance to see some of the kids, the linemen that came from the transfer portal, and all they got to do is get used to the heat and humidity. And once they do, they're going to be ready to go. I just, I'm not looking for national championship in the first year, but I'm telling you, Miami and Pittsburgh will battle it out for the Coastal. And, everybody said, well, Pittsburgh lost their top quarterback, but they also got Keita Slovis from USC, who I think, is a pretty damn good guy. So I think Miami's going to start picking up more kids. I think they flipped the kid Nathaniel Joseph. I just think that they will, because I think, when you look at Gaddis and people like that, he's going to get that kid in the mix. Because remember, they're still looking for a number one. Right. They don't have a number one. It's a shame, but they don't. Jacoby George was supposed to be that. Frank Ladston was supposed to be that. And obviously the Romello Brinson really hasn't gotten that opportunity, but they need a one. They need a guy like Rambo to come into the huddle and say, hey man, I can beat this guy every time. Or the kid before, from Buffalo, that's in the NFL as well. They don't have the one. They have a bunch of role players over there, and And obviously their running back room is just deeper and deeper. The quarterback room is probably as good as you get right now. And their defense linebackers are terrible. But they have to work on. No, it's just true. I mean, it's just, but they can fix that. They can fix that over the next 2 years, and the secondary is going to remain strong. And they're picking up defensive linemen. I mean, if they get the kid Bain from Miami Central, that's another Leonard Taylor, and that was my point, Jazz. You and I talked about that. Miami's doing well a couple of years ago when they recruited, but they're only getting one of these guys, while Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State and Oklahoma are all bringing in 2 and 3 marquee defensive linemen, because that's the line of scrimmage is going to win you the games. And I think that's where Miami needs to get a little bit tougher. I think Mirabel's a really good coach. I think they have some really good defensive people. And I've watched Jason Taylor in action with Nick Bonito. When Nick Bonito against Bosco about 4 years ago, I saw him on the sideline, and Jason Taylor showed him one move, and then next thing you know, the kid's in Oklahoma. So
it should have been here. Miami should have.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the thing too. You got to remember Nick Bonito, when he was in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, was the #1 basketball player in the country. So he made that transition over when he was at U School and played as an 8th grader. And then he was slow in his progress because he wasn't really being taught. Remember, he didn't play much football. He played a lot of basketball. But yeah, everything works out for a reason. But I think, John, what has to happen is Miami needs not everybody, because, back in the day when they were killing people too, Marvin Jones left and Derek Thomas left. And, you're going to lose kids because Miami's loaded with talent. But you got to keep those key kids that are going to turn the program around at home, I think.
Fascinating. You talked about receiver. I didn't get a chance. I watched some of the spring game. Obviously read the practice reports. I know people really can't be out there more than about 15, 20 minutes anyway.
Right.
I found it fascinating, and you're around it more than I am, and I thought maybe it was overblown that we don't have a 1. Do you think it's opportunity for these kids, or is it simply nobody's taken the bull by the horns and said, I'm going to be that guy?
Well, all I got to do is tell you, look at some of the great teams in the country. Their #1 receiver really rules the roost. And you could look at Rambo last year, what he did. He kind of opened everything up for Brashard Smith and for Restrepo. The key to Miami, and I think this year it's going to come to fruition, he's got to stay healthy. Will Mallory's potentially the best player on that team. I mean, this guy could go in the NFL at 6'6.5". He runs like a deer. He's just got to stay healthy. And his best moments have come on plays that they've called back. He went 74 yards one year, 65 yards. And I'm telling you, this kid is a freak of nature. If he stays healthy, he could catch himself 70 balls, get in the end zone 15 times this year and be a difference maker. And wow, would that open up, like you said, John, maybe they wouldn't have to have that marquee #1, but you can't just go into the season with, a guy like Jacoby George dropping passes in key situations and then having 2 or 3 slot kids. You have to have a dynamic guy that stretches the field and moves the safeties and the linebackers, away from the line, instead of a lot of times these guys stack the box on Miami because they knew that no one's going to make a big play. And, but I think that's going to change. I really do. The running game is fascinating to me because, everyone's forgetting about Thad Franklin, who's fallen out of the mix because now they have so many other kids. And you get a guy like Parrish who they wanted the first time around real bad, and he goes to Ole Miss and then comes back in. And then I had a chance last week when I went to the Berlin Jesuit game to see both Cheney and Rooster, and they look healthy. So, yeah, there's so much to be excited about. Miami's explosive on offense. They're stingy on defense. They just got to shore up their front 7 on defense. They're going to get in a lot of like 48-35 type of games.
Oh, preach, Blue, preach. It's kind of hard to follow. It's kind of hard to follow that up, right? Like, what am I gonna say? I'm out of here, guys. I'm just
telling the truth. I mean, from what I see and from what I what I know about the situation, it's just that, and nobody expected Miami and Cristobal to come in and them to win the national title this year. It's just not going to happen. Right. And if it does, wow. But if it doesn't, I mean, but what I like the best out of it, besides Texas A&M, the first 3 games are just really manageable, and games that they should be 3-0 at, and not open up with Alabama, which is insane.
And I honestly don't think Texas A&M is going to be that good, anyways.
Yeah,
I just don't see it. I
they're pretty stacked up front on the lines of scrimmage, and that's the thing that wins you the games. I mean, they're too deep at offensive line. They have really good defensive players. Their linebacking core is good. I mean, they may not have the big time playmaker. Spiller's gone, so obviously that's going to be somebody that they're going to have to replace. But they're still a really good team, I mean, and they're going to go in probably top 10, 5 at the beginning of the year, rightfully so. I mean, they finished strong. I'm actually looking forward to seeing when they go to Tuscaloosa. That's going to be worth the price of admission.
I was waiting to see an SEC coaches meeting this week. I don't know if you saw the table configuration, the way they had the coaches sitting. There was Jimbo Fisher in the middle, and then about a 6-coach buffer between him and Nick Saban.
Oh yeah, I imagine. And Jimbo doesn't endear himself to many of the coaches in the SEC, so
neither does Nick Saban.
Yeah, so there you go. So they're both in a. Yeah, you're right. And I mean, you got some crazy coaches in that league, but I just, like I said, Miami's crawling right now. Then they'll begin to walk, and once they walk, they'll be able to jog, and then they'll be sprinting. And once they start sprinting and they get that wheel going like they did in the late '80s and into the early 2000s, it's going to be tough to stop them because they're going to recruit extremely well. They have the resources now, and that's the best thing. I mean, because now they don't have to say, well, we can't afford to have this guy. Well, evidently they hit the lottery, and they could spend a lot of money, and somebody's going to be on the phone 24 hours a day trying to get money. That's for damn sure.
Oh yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. When you look, I talked with Kirby Smart maybe about 3 weeks ago, and he said it's such a change in the way recruiting goes down. He said, what used to be not necessarily dead period, but for coaches, it was a little more relaxed, was June and July. They didn't have a lot of people on campus. He said now so many kids want to be committed by the time their senior season starts. He told us that his most important weeks are like the next 4 weeks. He said he's got, 10, 15. Is Mario doing the same thing? Is it going to be huge weekends throughout June?
Well, the reason why that's happening now, you have the advent of the transfer portal.
Right.
Back in the day, you could slow play a lot of these kids. Now you don't want to do that. And because that portal could, we'll see what's going to happen this week. There's a lot of kids. I know Miami's targeting a receiver, that's pretty big time, but whether he leaves where he's at or not, I kind of asked him about Justin Flo because, wow, he would have been a real good addition as a linebacker to Miami, but I guess Justin likes it where he's at, I mean, that's unquestionably one of the best in the country right there, that guy. So
yeah, he didn't answer the transfer portal though. He's still over at Oregon, right?
Yeah, no, he's still at Oregon. I don't think he's going to leave. Mario didn't think he's leave. But John, to answer your question, that's probably why. That's why it's important. And Georgia's got some really good camps this week as well. That's the thing. You get these kids on campus and anything happens, I mean, especially, with Miami now with the future plans, they have the indoor, which is nice. It's kind of short right now, but they're going to expand it. But you get to show the kids what the future is going to be like. And, they're going to pop as soon as they build, from what I hear, they're going to build the new track over on the intramurals where the intramurals is. And as soon as that's completed, and they'll dig up the Cobb and start everything there. And I think maybe in 2 years you'll have it, which is really good because USF kind of threw up there. I was there last year for their camps, and they're almost finished on their indoor. So, but indoors are must, facilities are must. As much as I fight them being an OG, I say, I'm one of those guys that think, hey, just get your butt in here and play. The weights are weights, but evidently, what the medical staff with Vinny Scavo and those guys are going to have, it's state of the art pools and, everything. So, and you keep up with that. And you got to credit the new athletic director. This guy knows what he's doing. I mean, you look at Clemson for a period in men and women's sports; they were right up there in the ACC. But the one thing that I always reiterate: the top 2 ACC programs every year, because of the fact that they get it done in all sports, are Duke, which people don't really think of, and Virginia, because they win in lacrosse and they win in hockey, they win in wrestling, they win in men's and women's soccer and basketball. So Miami could come to that. I want to see Miami get a women's softball team and add wrestling. I'd like to see.
I'll tell you what, if they add wrestling, they're going to have a nice crop to pick from.
Sure, they will
down here, because South Florida, Florida as a whole has some really great wrestling. So,
but not only that, Jazz,
and softball too.
Yeah. But not only that, what you're going to do is you're going to get those kids who are tired of being in Iowa and New York and Pennsylvania and during those months where they have snow and want to come down here and wrestle, especially when they're going to wrestle against the same competition. And they definitely need softball. So if you add those two sports that aren't over the moon costly, I think you really bring the University of Miami, because they need those type of sports. I see FSU with softball, and I see Virginia, Duke, Georgia Tech always has, and Georgia Tech is like Miami in a lot of ways. They have to fundraise all the time, and you see that, John. I mean, they have to fundraise all the time. They're right there, in downtown, and it's one of the academic. It's like I said, not any cut on Virginia. I mean, on Florida State or Louisville, but other than those two schools, the ACC is highly academic.
And Georgia Tech has some of the same challenges Miami does, not just financially, but geographically and land-wise. Like you talk about Clemson. Clemson is a sprawling campus. Georgia basically is the entire city of Athens, and they can build wherever they want. Georgia Tech, and I talk with Joe Ham about this all the time. He was like, the only thing we could do is build up. They've got a nice facility. Jeff Collins, I think they have an 80-yard practice facility. It might be 100, but it's right there. But the only thing they could do is go upwards. There's no space in downtown Atlanta, and Miami deals with the same thing. And people never seem to understand that. They think, oh, you've got the Everglades. Like, dude, Coral Gables, there's nowhere to go. You build up, or you destroy some things and then build around what you just destroyed.
You're right. Yeah, that's a good analogy. And to me, Georgia Tech, and how expensive real estate is, especially in downtown Atlanta. I mean, if you buy out a huge parcel, I mean, you're going to be broke. I mean, so, and the same thing in Coral Gables, and there's no room for it. I just like to see them maybe do Tropical Park. I really would. Or even they were talking about that soccer facility and make it fit 45 to 50,000. And if they happen to have a major game, play it at Joe Robbie or whatever it is.
Sun Life or Land Shark.
Yeah, one of those.
I mean, nothing beats the name change from Dolphin Stadium to Dolphins Stadium. That was worth it.
Yeah.
When they did that, added that S.
You're right.
That was critical.
Really quick before we end it here. We got about 5-10 minutes here before we go. First thing, look, you both of you mentioned this of how important it is to have such a great AD in place. Obviously, to have Mario in place, bringing in Alonzo Highsmith and everybody else that they're bringing in. Which, by the way, forgot to mention, Mackenzie Rizzi was also hired on the staff, who is the daughter of Darren Rizzi. So, big football minds there all across the board. So it's really cool to see that as well. I think she's been here for a little bit. They just, they take forever to announce everybody. So, God knows how long she's been here. But this is one of the only schools. I don't know if anybody can name the other one that's had the baseball, the football, and the basketball program all make the postseason.
Well, there were 11 that did that, but there were only 2 that made it to the Sweet 16 or further, and it was us in North Carolina.
Wow.
Carolina obviously
that's big time.
They lost in the championship game, and we got run out by Kansas. But we're the only 2 schools that had a bowl berth, a Sweet 16 or better appearance, and a college baseball berth.
So that's pretty big. And even 11 schools, that's pretty big time. Which brings me to my next thing before we go, because obviously I think it's big news. Me and Vish are huge baseball guys. Blue, I don't think Blue knows much about baseball, but that's a joke, Blue, by the way. I know you know more about baseball than football at this point. So a lot of people don't know that how much Blue knows about baseball also. But listen, this is huge. I know. Look, Miami, kind of was struggling a little bit the last couple of weeks, baseball wise. They had a tough tournament
You
as
mean
well.
months?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's more like months. But how do you guys feel about Miami's chances now with a national seed, a nice bracket as well? I mean, they're the four that are in. Well, the three.
Arizona is going to be tough to beat because they have 2 pitchers. Miami only has 1.
Arizona is going to be pretty tough, and I would have disagreed with you, Blue, a month ago on that, but I just don't think Carson Ligon, he's running out of gas, right? So they're going to have to figure out how to kind of incorporate McFarland and Gallo. And
I would say the difference there is Arizona has to use one of their 2 pitchers against Ole Miss, and Palmquist should not be near the field against Canisius. You beat them with someone else, and then
Canisius. It sounds like a Jewish thing.
Put that on a bagel? I think you put some Canisius.
I'm not touching that.
Can I get some Canisius with that,
Blue is well able to make that joke. I'm not touching it. But I think that'll even that up because we'll still have Palmquist hopefully going in the winners game on Saturday against either Ole Miss or Arizona's second pitcher. So to me, but if we had to actually, and that's why Judge mentioned the national seed. Yeah, that was critical because you get the weaker, even just but being a host versus a national seed. Some of those 4 seeds are really tough.
A lot of them are.
When you get to the national seed, you start getting the teams that kind of struggled in bad conferences and won their conference tournament. I believe Canisius finished 3rd in the MAAC, not MAC.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a team in the mid 100 RPIs. Like, this is a team you should be able to beat without throwing your ace.
I'm going to show you this, Jazz, being a baseball fan. 1913 record guide.
Oh, wow.
1913. It has a
handle
amazing.
With care, right? You don't want that to break apart.
Isn't that crazy? 19. I have them back in the 30s and the 40s, and it's amazing to see Babe Ruth looking at a book with Babe Ruth's picture back in 1919 when, wow, he looked at that same book. I mean, stuff wasn't reproduced. It was amazing. Yeah, those things, that turns me on a little bit. But you're right, Vish. I just think that Miami, you can't take Canisius lightly. I mean, because didn't they do that with East Carolina or somebody a couple of years ago that they got toasted by a team that they shouldn't have gotten beat by?
South Alabama. I think it was South
Alabama.
Last
year was just a complete meltdown because we went to the Gainesville
Central Michigan.
But that was a 2 versus 3 game.
Yeah,
because that was in Starkville, Mississippi. Like, this is there's no excuse for.
No,
I know it stinks for the fans, and we're gonna have like 3 people at the game because it's at noon. I did look up what Canisius is. It's in Buffalo. Those kids are gonna melt by like 12:15. They're done. I know. They actually do have a good pitcher. They have an ace. This guy Matt Duffy, who's really good.
He got drafted.
Yeah, so they have and we know that our hitting struggles against top end pitching. If it's a little bit lower, we can smack it. But we've been shut down before. But I'm hoping the Heat wears them out.
Parker Messick, all right. So that's a Parker Messick. Real quick before
we don't acknowledge anything as top end at FSU, Jazz, and I'm really ashamed you went that route.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, that's my baseball nerdiness there. I had to do that to you, John. What's your take? What do you think the chances are that Miami can get back to Omaha this year?
So if all goes well, I would pitch Jake Garland on Friday.
That's what me and Vish said. Yeah,
that's what I'm throwing Friday.
I'll give credit to Vish on that one.
He's been a really good midweek starter. Going against the FAUs, the FIUs of the world, they're better than Canisius. He should be able to shut them down. Pitch Carson on Saturday, get the dub there, and then it becomes Johnny Holstaff from there. Whatever the hell you need to do on Sunday, hopefully only win 1 game and move on. I want LSU out of the other region. I think they're the 2 seed in the Southern Miss Super Regional. We owe them from about 20 some odd years ago. I played Pony League baseball with Robbie Morrison. So Robbie and I were friends growing up. And obviously that home run that he gave up to Warren Morris will forever live in infamy. I do think if they play like they did previous to the last 16 games, or if they play like they did even in the Notre Dame series where you win 2 out of 3, I think they have a really good chance to go to Omaha. And a lot of it just has to do playing at the light. You know how that's going to be, especially if you get to the supers where it's going to be jam-packed. People are going to be loud. It becomes a very intimidating environment. Carson then would have to pitch on Friday night. You got to get that very important first win. And then again, from there, it's Johnny Holstaff. I like our bullpen. I like the propensity to score runs when it's not against ace pitching. But I don't think anybody's beating Tennessee. I think Tennessee's going to win the national title.
Amazing.
I just want to get back to Omaha and have a chance to see us play a few games out there.
What an amazing year Tennessee had. I mean,
goodness.
amazing.
They're absolutely unbelievable. But I will say this based off of experience, and I've said this to Vish and I've said this to Danny before. When a team gets hot, I don't give a crap who they're playing against. They can beat anybody. So if anybody gets hot, whether it's Miami, whether it's anybody else, if you get hot in baseball, it's the best team doesn't always win. And I hate to say that, but it's the truth.
Oregon State won a national title as
a
4 seed in their region. They weren't even a 4 seed over. They were a 4 seed in the region. So they were basically a 12, 13, 14 seed and won a national title.
Didn't Georgia win it all and they weren't a national seed also? Wasn't it Georgia?
There's several teams have won without being a national seed.
Yeah.
What John's referencing is there's been
they're a 4 seed. Yeah,
4 seed, like worst team in the region, supposed to be like the cupcake win and then go win the championship. It's like you said, if you get going, baseball's a finicky game. It's a finicky
game. Wish we had one more pitcher that we could count on because
that at the beginning of the year they're supposed to have him, but now they've kind of diminished. But I agree. And just getting back real quickly to the Oregon State reference. I don't know if you saw, but Adley Rutschman, when he came up last week, got a standing ovation. That's how starved they are in Baltimore for a hero.
Right. That was pretty cool. Blue, do you got to make it Omaha this year again?
I'd like to see it, but like you said, they've got to, and Vish said, I mean, I wouldn't take Canisius lightly, but at the same time, you don't use your ace against them because you don't waste it. And just go out and get, scrap, hit. That kid does throw. So, I mean, Miami's going to have to, it's going to be a lower scoring game than most people think because he's had 3 games this year where he struck out 14 and Miami strikes out a lot.
I will say the one thing, John touched on this. We've been struggling as of late. We've been really good at home, though.
Okay, good.
And that's why the national seed was really important. I don't think we can go on the road and beat anyone right now, to be honest. That's good. So if we ended up having to go on the road, we were definitely going to host. So we would have to all of a sudden go win a series out of national seed. That ain't happening.
I think it's important.
Now hosting, like we haven't lost a home series since the UF one. So like we've been winning all of our home series. So
and by the way,
getting at home,
thank you NCAA for finally not putting Florida as a 2 seed in our bracket because I saw all the protections. I said we're gonna have to go through the Gators again. And that hasn't worked out.
Well, they played their way into a host, but I was sure then at that point they would align them to us in supers, but they didn't do that either. So we are free and clear of that. And actually, as far as I know, you mentioned LSU was kind of a payback for a play we will not mention. The host there is Southern Miss. I think we got, frankly, our regional. I feel is almost harder than what a super would be. I think us getting Southern Miss potentially at home if the 2 top seeds advance. That's a series we should win.
You could have gotten 24-35 New Mexico. I mean, come on, man.
Well, I mean,
as a regional host opposite us. I mean, if you look at what I'm saying is, if you look at all the regional hosts, like I would have picked Southern Miss pretty much. Maybe Georgia State, but they're actually really good. And I think just because they're Georgia Southern, sorry, they got kind of backburnered. I would actually worry about them a little bit more than Southern Miss. But all things considered, when you look at who the other regional hosts are that we could
you're right.
Got a pretty good one. The one thing I don't like, given our pitching issues, when you hit those power, like Ole Miss probably should not have been in, but they are used to facing SEC pitching. So I kind of like playing those smaller schools where they might be a little overwhelmed by some of our pitching. Like Arizona, Ole Miss, they're not going to have any issue. They're not going to be like, whoa, what am I looking at? Like they're going to be very comfortable. So
and weren't they one of 6 teams to beat Tennessee this year? I think they beat them 3-2 in one of the games.
The ACC all around was a better conference for baseball this year than at the SEC either way. So I think that what plays into our favor, like Vish, like everybody said, is playing at home. Is playing at home all throughout the playoffs, except obviously Omaha. I think it's going to be huge for us to kind of get things going and kind of get some momentum again. If we can do that, I think that we've got a shot to compete in Omaha. Again, Tennessee is obviously the cream of the crop there, and then there's everybody else, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how things happen. But it is baseball, and if we all know anything, baseball is the craziest sport when it comes to the playoffs, and anybody can win. If anybody gets hot, that's it. So I want to thank you guys for coming on the show as we gotta wrap things up. John, let them know where they can find you.
At John Michaels U, anywhere on any kind of social media, mostly Twitter or Instagram, although Instagram's just pictures of my kids. Tap the app, the 680 The Fan app. You can listen to us Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 a.m. The podcast is coming back eventually when I get off my lazy ass, and we'll do the Miami podcast, getting things rolling, the State of Miami pod. That'll be up with the OBB boys. I'm running with them coming up this fall. So just basically Twitter, that's where I'm at. Hit me up there. We always will talk trash. It's almost football season. Mario's going 10-2. We're going to the ACC title game, and I'm going to party with every one of you.
This is why I like bringing him on the show, man. He brings that fire, that energy. We love it, John Michaels. Thank you so much. Blue.
Yes.
Let them know where they can find you, brother.
Just at my Twitter account, and then you could branch off here. I'm here a lot. I like this
Yes, you
place.
are.
This is a good place to come. Every Monday night, WQAM 6 to 8. Tonight we had to run it because the Panthers kind of whatever they did. They kind of pushed us out on a false premise that they were a good team. They were kind of reminding me of the Seattle Mariners in 2000 when the Yankees beat them in the first round after winning 118 games. But what good was it to be the best team in the NHL and the most high scoring team in NHL history when you couldn't? But you knew they weren't going to be Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is so damn seasoned. It's crazy. But yep, that's where I'm at, and I'm on with Dono tomorrow on Canes Unlock Canes or Canes Unlocked.
Locked on Canes, yeah, Locked on Canes.
Locked on Canes. So, but other than that, having a good time, and then in the fall we'll be on Fox Sports again on every week. Get to go over there on a Sunday night and tape and enjoy it, and with Kelly. I'll tell you what, Kelly's very. You talk about baseball. Kelly Sacco is one of the most knowledgeable women.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Anywhere. She's on a meteoric rise, and she could hit too.
Yeah, she can. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. DJ Vish, always a pleasure. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at 6 Rings Canes, the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel as well. Make sure you subscribe, smash the like button, and make sure you check our show out now. That starts in like a minute. It's the
we gotta run.
All right, go.
Hitting the Apex, coming at you now, 9:30. Take it easy,
John
fellas.
Michaels is my hero, man. I'm telling